Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Yeah, I think.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I think you're back. Absolutely. And so,
Okay.
yeah, thanks again for taking the time to connect. Last week as well as this week. Really, just want to kind of structure it the exact same way that we had last week, just a casual kind of conversation. I have some questions over here, but really just would love to kind of start with your experience at the beginning of the journey with the EV cars. And so curious on your perspective. When did you start looking at electric vehicles? How did that come about? Was there any hesitation
Oh,
in that?
yeah, absolutely there was, and I'm probably like a lot of people, what's been advertised when it comes to electric vehicles and people that are considering going from a gas engine vehicle to electric is, one of the considerations for me was just basically the, range anxiety, as they call it, right? And the worry of, hey, can I get from one place to another? And, we're driving around town, right? It's not a consideration, right? That's not an issue. It's more doing road trips. And without getting a lot of gory detail, but I had several, at least a few years ago, my first experience with electric vehicle was with a friend who had a Tesla, and we were going to do kind of a trip across Washington State and going to some locations that were kind of off the interstate freeway, right? And
Hmm.
it was a golf trip. We were going to go to some places, and it was really problematic. And I'll understate that on trying to get there and trying to find places where you could plug in and charge and still get. You had to really kind of go out of your way to do it. So that kind of planted a seed saying, geez, this is not a car I'd ever want to have for a road, electric vehicle for a road trip. And so that's kind of always been in the back of my mind. And you asked the question of how I came to owning an electric vehicle was that I had a car that I had owned that I was very happy with, a gas powered car that I was very happy with, and didn't really even consider going to an electric vehicle. And the car that I had owned was on lease, was coming off for lease. And to be honest with you, I liked the car so much that I was going to just, buy or lease another one. And then it just happened to be serendipitously the manufacturer that the car was going to buy had an electric vehicle in the same day, promoting a pretty very enticing discount on the car to where it was actually cheaper than the gas car. And so just simplistically from a financial standpoint, I said, hey, let's go with it and let's give it a try. Here's our opportunity. And my wife and I don't do a lot of road trips. It was mostly in city driving. So I thought, oh, this will be manageable. And then fast forward kind of where we want this conversation to go, or I think where you want this conversation to go was my wife and I were planning a trip for a while from Seattle down to Southern California to San Diego and Palm Springs. And I happened to, before the trip, read an article in a local publication in Seattle that talked about your new, I don't know, you call it a partnership with Costco in your new location down in, is it Ridgefield, Washington? Just north of Portland.
Yep, exactly.
Read an article about that, and I thought, geez, I just kind of put that on my, kind of a to-do list or to follow and say, hey, let's hit that on when we do our road trip and hit that and give it a try and see what that experience is like. Being like many people, a loyal Costco customer, I thought, well, this is too easy. We'll just stop there and give it a try. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I think, as a Seattle-based company, we're really passionate about electrification just within the local area as well as that I-5 corridor, but also across the U.S. as well. And so
right.
when you are looking and kind of made that trip down, before that, what do you kind of consider or what do you look for when you are, looking for a charging station itself?
Well, just, or that's not far off the route that you're taking, right? You want it to be convenient. You want it to be, something we've talked about briefly was just the ease of use, right? And that's kind of what sold me on your technology, and kind of tell you a little bit about the journey or the when we stopped at that Costco in Washington State, it was just such an easy experience, such a painless experience that, to be honest with you, I went on your website and looked up and said, where else are these guys? Where else is the company? Where else do they have other locations? To be honest with you, I seeked you out, to be honest with you, on where we're going to stop or plan to stop. It was such a great experience. It's like, hey, let's just hit these other locations that, Electric Era has. And that was, to be honest with you, a consideration in our trip on where to stop.
Absolutely, yeah. And do you use a app like PlugShare or anything? Do you look at reviews before you head to a station?
Yeah, yeah. One of the, get myself in trouble here, but one of the negatives, in having an EV is, I say, the number of apps that you have to download right on your phone, et cetera, because every network, every platform, it seems, has an app that they want you to download and register and set up an account. And, it becomes a little bit of an annoyance, right? And one of the downsides of an EV is, all having to deal with all the different, not only third party apps like a PlugShare. Those are great because it kind of aggregates all the different locations and all the different, places to stop into one app. And each network that has charging stations kind of want you to download an app. And to be honest with you, that was one of the selling points again of your technology, is it just so effortless, I guess, to what I would say, right? And that you just show up. I mean, that experience we had at your location in Southwest Washington was, you pull up, you plug in, you tap your credit card, and several minutes later you're on your way and you've got a full battery or an 80% battery. Where other experiences we've had were, I could give you a number of examples, but where you have to have an app, or they hope you have the app or want you to download the app in order to use the charging station. And then just the hassle again of having to register and set up accounts. And, oh, by the way, in some circumstances, they want you to preload, right, your account with dollars that maybe you're not going to use all of, those dollars. So they've got basically as hostage to your money, and right. So it's like, wait a second,
Yeah.
So anyway, so again, back to the point, of this conversation is, I just love your technology and how effortless it is.
Hmm. Well, we definitely really appreciate that. I think we strive to emulate that gas station experience, something
Right.
we thought about was an app, but really put ourselves in the driver's shoes, and that driver experience is not something that we found to be the best experience for those drivers. And so really making it as seamless as possible is something we strive for over here. And when you have been using those apps or other chargers, have you experienced, outside of the app paying itself, have you ever gone to a charging station and that charger was down or payment didn't process?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's very I would say, unfortunately, more common than you would hope it to be. And I love your analogy of using that gas station experience, because that is what I think people want. Why? They just want to be able to pull up and charge and not having to go through all this extracurricular activity, if you want to call it that, right? It seems like some you have to do. So, to your point, is I've had circumstances where the app doesn't work. I've had circumstances where you go to a station, you plug in, and they've got a display there, and all of a sudden the display doesn't work. So you have to use the app, and hopefully the app is working. And the other one, as I just mentioned, that was annoying was, I came down here and you wanted to use something where I had to download another app, had to register and set up an account, right? And then, oh, by the way, once you did that, the app wasn't working. And then coming back to it and trying it again, it finally did. But then you loaded, they give you a credit card and they preload. I think in this case it was like $25, and, oh, by the way, you charge up and you're only using $6, and so it's like, okay, wait a second, I just you got $25, worth of my dollars, and I'll probably never use you again or see you again. So it's like, hey, wait a second.
Right.
right? So
Kind
there's all sorts of, different issues, right, that you have to deal with. And again, I sorry for emphasizing this, but
of,
your gas station analogy is just perfect. You want to just pull up, charge up, and then and be on your way, which is what you. That's the experience my wife and I had in stopping at your station.
that's awesome. Yeah, definitely awesome to hear. I think something we're really striving for over here. I'd be curious on the amenity piece. Is that something that when you're looking for a public charging location, are the amenities nearby important when
Well, I would
choosing a
say,
charger?
I would say it's nice to have that absolutely, and then being able to, um, if you need it, you have a restroom nearby, or more just a little mini mart where you can pick up a drink or a refreshment or a snack, and because the charging right, it'll take you several minutes, so it's a way to kind of pass the time. But I don't think it's a requirement, but it's certainly a nicety to have, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And when you are charging next to amenities, what would you say is the percentage of time that you would head in to purchase an item there at the amenities next door?
Oh, how often? You broke up a little bit. So how often? I would say 100%. 100% of the
100%.
time, right? You run in and grab something, right? Or
Hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's something we have seen over here, but also just in the market itself. It seems to be a really great benefit for the stores and the retail locations that host these EV chargers. And that's something that we try to tie ourselves to is increasing those in-store sales. And so it's great to hear that you have had, great experience, but are also help driving, the local economy there and the in-store sales.
absolutely. And I would tell you that other friends that I know that have been more longer term EV owners, that I would argue that they look for those locations, right? Where they going to stop and charge and saying, "Oh, let's stop here," because they know there's some amenities there where they can, quote unquote, pass the time while the car is charging, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. And I know that you have only been with the electric car here for about a year. Is that correct?
Yeah, just
Okay.
short of a year.
Gotcha. Absolutely. And have you noticed any changes in the public charging market from that time to now?
Well, I would say from, because I've been such a short term owner, I would say more so from a longer term and having experiences like I mentioned earlier, experiences with other friends, absolutely a lot different, a lot easier, a lot more, locations and options. And so I think it's being an EV owner, I think it's getting a lot easier, right? Just a lot more choices. You look at some of the apps that you've mentioned, right, where you can look up at locations, and it's, I think that range anxiety and ability or fear of being able to find a station where you need, what I think is, be honest with you, in my opinion, I think is a thing of the past. I think it's a non-discussion anymore. On this trip my wife and I took down here to California, it was not an issue at all. We'd never had trouble trying to find location or worry about are we gonna, have to make side trips to find something. So I think that's soon to be a thing of the past, if not already.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that we have seen as well, with the market evolving. I'd be curious when it comes to the cost of the station itself or the cost per kilowatt. Is that something that is really important to you when choosing a station?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And one of the we won't mention numbers, but one of the pleasant surprises, that's, stop we made at the first stop we made at your location was almost, shocking on the price on how nice it was versus other options. So that's personally something I look at, is, hey, what's the cost of the station? And some of these apps, third party apps, they provide that, which is great to know. You can kind of, know what you're getting into, because it definitely varies.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of curious from your perspective, there is definitely a lot of charging networks out there and had a good experience with ours. When it comes to the other players in the market, is there a certain brand or a certain charging network that you seek out outside of ours when looking for a place to charge?
I do, and I would say just from what I look at is just again back to the experience. If you have a great experience, an easy experience, and you know that the uptime or the locations are, the stations are working and functional and not broken, or unfortunately, maybe there's vandalism, et cetera. It's absolutely a consideration. So it's almost, I want to say, reliability of the experience.
Mhm.
When you get the great experiences, I'm going to seek those out, right? Because you know that, oh, I can rely on this, that there'll be a station one available and it's working and functioning and not have some technology issues or other types of issues. So absolutely.
Yeah, I think that is
User
something.
experience is important, Connor, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's definitely something we really strive to keep our focus on. And so these types of conversations are super important to hear directly from the drivers. I think I mentioned this last time, but we have customers that host these stations, but our true customers are the drivers themselves. And so making
Yeah.
sure that experience is top notch and very easy, works every single time. That high reliability is our main focus, and we're striving to really be what we call chasing nines, that 99.999%
Mm.
reliability and working. And so that's what we're chasing right now. I know we talked a little bit about it previously, but would be curious from your perspective as a driver. Do you have any feedback for our team when it comes to that experience on the station?
I would just say keep doing. As I said earlier, it was like I actually seeked you guys out on the trip. I looked up all your locations and said which ones are on our route that we're going, and we're going to stop there just because the experience was so great. So
Mhm.
I think that's a huge consideration. Um, keep doing what you guys are doing because it's been a great experience.
Absolutely. When you're thinking about the Seattle area in general or those trips down to California, is there any areas where you felt, I know you mentioned that it was very easy to find a charger. As your experience grows as an EV driver, is there areas in the state or other areas where you wish a charging station would be?
So in our trip down, if there was an area where it seemed like it was a little um, devoid of options, is kind of in central California. Kind of in the agricultural section of the state. There's a little bit of a quote unquote desert, right? Not that we couldn't find and plan location, but it certainly wasn't certainly an overabundance of locations. From pick it from south of Sacramento to between Sacramento and Bakersfield on Interstate 5. We could find location, but it certainly wasn't as prevalent as you were in some of the other major city, et cetera.
Mhm. Absolutely.
But again, we could find a station. It just wasn't like it, every exit, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something we really try to focus on and make sure that these American road trips, if you will, have the ability to be successful, have that charging infrastructure very close, very easy to access, and then making sure it works every single time. So that's something that we really strive to focus
Yeah,
on over here as well. I
I
think,
think
oh yeah,
I yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, no, absolutely, yeah, I would love to. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. So to me, I think the big X factor is, along if you're traveling along interstate freeways, right? It's not an issue. It becomes more of when you get off the main thoroughfares, right? That's where I think the build out will really make this a not a conversation anymore, right? Where every town you go through and every street and highway you're on,
Oh,
that's when this conversation about things will go away. So
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. You broke up there a little bit on the end.
that,
Just kind of curious on,
yeah, sorry.
no, no, absolutely. And so you mentioned a factor that would help end range anxiety. I would love to just kind of retouch on that.
Yeah, just, just on, when you're doing road trips that are away from the major interstates, I was saying is just maybe is the next phase in this rollout of charging stations, right? Is, when you're doing back roads or country roads and, that to me, I gotta believe is still will have some, you know, concern with drivers, right? And their hesitation. It's like, are we going someplace where we'll be able to find a station, right? So that'll come. Sorry if I broke
Yeah.
up again.
No, absolutely. I think that was great to hear. I think the rural areas is something that we are definitely have our sights on. It's all about those corridors at first, the majorly trafficked, but as
Right.
the infrastructure is expanding, it's really important to have that footprint, just like gas stations do, to make sure that everywhere you go, you have that ability to charge and great customer experience.
Yep.
Awesome, absolutely. Well, Scott, I think that's all I had from my side today. I really appreciate you taking the time to
Okay.
discuss your experience
Yeah,
with your
absolutely.
station, as well as
I'm
your
rooting.
thoughts.
I'm rooting. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm rooting for you guys because I love your technology.
Absolutely, yeah. I was gonna ask you, is there any kind of parting words for us as a team over here?
Just I'm like I said, I'm rooting for you. Just keep up the good work because I love your platform, I love your technology, the ease of use. It was painless and just a great experience. So good luck. Good luck to your rollout.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. Well, really appreciate it. Hope we can stay in touch. As I mentioned, if you ever want to come down to the factory here in Soto and check it out, we'd love to have you come walk through, show you the manufacturing space where all the work gets done, and keep your eye out for some great new stations that are coming along those corridors as well as across the United States.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your time, Connor.
Absolutely. Thank you as well, Scott. Have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the sun.
See. Thanks.
Bye.